This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
Next on the 5 o'clock report.
Very few top leader conversations by phone go this long.
I don't think we're at the beginning of a month-long military campaign, i.e. the war has started again.
We're going to rebuild the military. You're going to see a historic investment in the weapons and modernization required to stand up to our enemies.
Now, let's go to the newsroom.
Good afternoon and welcome to the broadcast. I'm Family Life News anchor Sarah Harnish. Freedom Fight. Legislative Day is wrapping up at the state capitol in Albany, New York. Christians laying out what it's going to take to fight for religious freedom in the Empire State. Our own Bob Price is there.
Rally goers actually prayed for New York's elected representatives, and that was a powerful moment indeed today from Albany.
We've got more with Bob Price coming up in a few minutes. A 3-hour call. President Trump spent the better part of his morning on a phone call. The other end of that line, Russian President Vladimir Putin.
This is an extraordinarily long conversation. Very few top leader conversations by phone go this long.
Donald Trump trying to end a war. Fox analyst Ben Ferguson.
This is the president leading, and the rest of the world is looking at this, and they're seeing a president that is saying we're going to have peace through strength. War is bad. We're going to end it. And he's dealing with Vladimir Putin, a guy that he does know well, and he understands how to negotiate with him. So the longer this conversation goes, the better off it is for everyone in Ukraine and Russia as well.
Gaza's on fire again. Israel fired overnight. Hamas fired back. CBS's Ramy Inocencio.
The injured rushed by the hundreds to barely functioning hospitals, treated wherever doctors could find space.
Many news sites are reporting the ceasefire is over, but Charles Kupchan of the Council of Foreign Relations disagrees.
I don't think we're at the beginning of a month-long military campaign, i.e. the war has started again. I think what we're seeing is Israel ratcheting up the pressure.
Vice President J.D. Vance told tech leaders our great American industrial comeback is here today at a conference in Washington, D.C.
You're making interesting new things here in America? Great. Then we're going to cut your taxes. We're going to slash regulations. We're going to reduce the cost of energy so that you can build. But
what about the plummeting stock market from the Trump tariffs? Business analyst Charles Payne.
What we're seeing really in the last couple of weeks is a media creation and made tariffs the scariest thing in the world.
He says the inflation and economy resolution is simple, more jobs, and you do that with tariffs.
President Trump's not going to panic about the stock market, but this is not a short-term thing. This is a longer-term thing, and the ultimate goal is bring back jobs. We had, almost 20 million people working in the manufacturing area down to 12 million. Let's bring back those jobs because we were told they weren't great jobs, so we sent them to China. China went from the average person there making $150 a year to being our economic rival. Those jobs must have been pretty good.
New U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth tells Fox News big changes are coming to the Pentagon.
We're going to rebuild the military. You're going to see a historic investment in the weapons and modernization required to stand up to our enemies. Shipbuildings, the long-range munitions, hypersonics, long-range drones, Golden Dome.
Golden Dome refers to plans to build a shield against incoming missiles similar to Israel's Iron Dome. A federal judge is indefinitely blocking the shutdown of the U.S. Agency for International Development, or USAID. That judge ruled in favor of a group of recently fired employees and contractors by granting, in part, their request for a preliminary injunction. The judge ordered Elon Musk and Doge to reinstate access to email and other systems and prevented any further action by the Trump administration. It's a rare display of conflict between the executive and judiciary branches. U.S. Supreme Court Justice John Roberts put out an unusual statement today, rejecting calls for federal judges to be impeached. CBS's Stacey Lynn.
In the statement, Roberts said, "For more than 2 centuries, it has been established that impeachment is not an appropriate response to disagreement concerning a judicial decision."
The conflict happened after a federal judge told President Trump he violated a court order when he shipped 250 Venezuelan gang members back to El Salvador. Trump called him an instigator. There is about an hour until astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams are back home. The pair checked out of the International Space Station some 277 days later than expected after the spacecraft that brought them there ran into trouble last year. SpaceX Dragon commander Nick Hague.
We're excited to see what you guys are going to accomplish. and we'll be waiting for you.
As their bodies adjust to gravity, they'll likely experience weakness, dizziness, and balance issues after landing, but there's no place like home.
The first beer and pizza does taste pretty good, I have to say.
I wonder if they're getting paid overtime. Still to come on the 5 o'clock report, 3 bills that may impact religious freedom in the Empire State. Chuck Schumer under the gun today, and more storm damage from the weather that tore through Pennsylvania on Sunday. Those stories after weather with Kevin Williams.
Tonight will be clear. It will not be as chilly as last night. Low temps 30s to near 40. Tomorrow, ample sunshine, warmer than it was today. High temperatures, mid-60s to mid-70s, though it will be much cooler in the afternoon, close to Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. Then on Thursday, cloudy and breezy with showers. High temperatures 50s and low 60s, with falling temperatures in the afternoon across western New York and western Pennsylvania.
Thank you, Kevin. Couple of great weather days ahead. Checking the stories making news where you live across New York and Pennsylvania. We return to our top story. It was a packed event for New York families' Legislative Day in Albany. Our own Bob Price is there.
Yes, Sarah, attendees at this year's Legislative Day event heard from Bunny Pounds at Christians Engaged and Brandon Showalter with the Christian Post. They talked about being proactive instead of reactive in the culture wars, especially on the issue of transgender indoctrination. Participants today were also versed on 3 bills currently before the New York State Legislature. One of them, the Protect Girls Sports Act, would ban biological boys from participating in girls' sports in grades 7 through 12. Another bill, the Age Verification Act, seeks to prevent minors from being exposed to online pornography. And the third bill discussed today had to do with assisted suicide. There's an effort in New York to make the Empire State the 12th state to permit doctor-assisted suicide. Today's speakers implored lawmakers not to do that. Today's rally, Sarah, concluded with a worship service and time of prayer at the New York State Capitol. Reporting for Legislative Day from the Empire Plaza Convention Center, I'm Bob Price, Family Life News.
Thank you, Bob. Schumer in the spotlight. New York Senator Chuck Schumer had an uncomfortable interview by his own Democratic voters on The View today. The women angry that he crossed the aisle and voted for the Republican stopgap budget.
Why?
Great.
What were you thinking and why? It gives me no pleasure to say this to you because we are friends, but I think you caved.
No one wants to fight more than me, and no one fights more than me.
Schumer says the consequences of government layoffs are too high, and both parties, quote, have to work together. 14 people are looking for new homes after that storm Sunday blew the roof off the Cambria County Living Center in Pennsylvania. Nantiglow Fire Chief Joe Lamantia tells WJAC.
It came really suddenly. It probably only lasted less than a minute, 45 seconds to a minute, and we came outside of all this damage.
Corrections officers are responding to New York Governor Kathy Hochul, who blacklisted some 2,000 COs from getting any new state employment or law enforcement jobs in the Empire State after that prison strike. 9-year CO Kristen McIntyre tells Spectrum News today.
We started this strike based on safety, something that I think that we all as human beings deserve, a safe work environment. I'll do whatever I can now to make my position and my family whole monetarily.
Chemung and Oneida counties have filed lawsuits seeking to have Hochul's decision overturned. Next at 5, our own Mark Webster sits down with a missionary doing work in war-torn Ukraine. That missionary is from Pennsylvania. Let's listen in.
Welcome back to another edition of Hometown Heroes on Family Life. I'm Mark Webster, and this week's guest is Todd Gallagher, a missionary to Ukraine and Romania from Parker, Pennsylvania.
Just go for a week, we'll scout out things. This is 3 weeks before the war. And then once in Romania, we figured we'd take our family skiing, and on the way up the mountain, a car crossed the center into our Jeep. Everybody's okay. The Jeep got totaled, just 3 days after being there, and we're now realizing we're not there for just a short time. But we, again, felt God orchestrating things. We developed a lot more relationships with the church church that we just attended there from the first week. The war starts, and we contemplate going back to the United States, and I'm looking at tickets. But this church that we're involved with is getting all kinds of calls trying to set up for refugees coming into the country. But nobody in Romania hardly speaks Ukrainian or Russian, and they contacted us right away knowing that we were from there and said, hey, can you help us liaison any of this? And we did. We started doing a lot of that. Then we started having personal calls of people that knowing we're there saying, hey, can you help us find a place? And then the calls kept continuing from the church, and so we started working, and we said, hey, so God's wanting to do something with us here.
Could you ever have envisioned any of this going back to that first mission trip?
Oh boy, you think there's going to be tough times. There's going to be times that you're going to struggle because you don't know the language that well, but when you come up to something like this, everything else pales in comparison to it. The need of humanity on the most basic of levels. People coming from the East that had to leave in their flip-flops. I never would have envisioned any of this, but it's just amazing. God has orchestrated so much of this. We've just had things provided for us in just amazing ways.
Sounds like the Lord has orchestrated enough throughout all of this for an entire symphony.
Yeah, he really has. And it's been an encouragement. This has been one of my toughest challenges. They say, what's it like? And I say, well, mentally it's been very draining, but it's been really exciting. Still, I need to get a thesaurus out and look for synonyms for exciting. It's not like in a pleasurable way, but it's just been invigorating to see how God has worked and used so many people for his purposes.
That's Todd Gallagher, a missionary to Ukraine and Romania from Parker, Pennsylvania. Please join us again next week as we search for your home, your town, your hero. It's Hometown Heroes on Family Life.
You can subscribe, listen to, and share Hometown Heroes and all of Family Life's original podcasts at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or at familylife.org. Time next for tonight's market report brought to you by Faithward Advisors. Wall Street is closing lower after 2 straight winning sessions. At the final bell, the Dow Jones Industrial Average lost 260 points to 41,581. The S&P 500 fell 60 points to 5614. And the NASDAQ dropped 304 points to 17,504. Faithward Advisors is a Christian financial planning firm online at faithwardadvisors.com.
A penny saved may be a penny earned, but $1,000 saved is a whole lot more. Hi, I'm Rob West with the Faith and Finance Minute, and a few must-knows about money. The first is look at the big picture. Did you know that most people don't shop around for their mortgage? Getting multiple offers and then choosing the best could save you tens of thousands over the years, especially now with higher rates. Next, today counts more than tomorrow. That means don't put off investing. Money invested today has the benefit of time to realize compound earnings, so start investing today. Finally, prepare for the inevitable. Have an emergency fund for unplanned expenses. Otherwise, you'll go into debt. Knowing a few things about money can save you a lot of it in the future. Manage your finances wisely with the easy-to-use FaithFi app. Download FaithFi, Faith and Finance from your app store, or learn more at faithfi.com.
Coming up on the 5 o'clock report, miles and miles of Bible verses all over campus. We'll tell you where and what happened. Coming up after weather with Kevin Williams.
Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. Certainly a lovely day today. You may like tomorrow even more as temperatures will climb good 10 degrees higher than they did today in many cases. Our next weather maker is a cold front. It will deliver some wind and showers on Thursday. Much chillier air will follow. In the meantime, tonight will be clear. It will not be as chilly as last night. Low temps 30s to near 40. Tomorrow, ample sunshine, warmer than it was today. High temperatures, mid-60s to mid-70s, though it will be much cooler in the afternoon, close to Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. Then on Thursday, cloudy and breezy with showers. High temperatures 50s and low 60s, with falling temperatures in the afternoon across western New York and western Pennsylvania.
Thank you, Kevin. Finally at 5, just look down. Students this week wrote the entire book of John all over the sidewalks at Western Kentucky University. It was over 2 miles long, 879 verses. Then they recorded the chalk verses and posted about it on Instagram.
The more that I look in the details, the more of your goodness I'll find.
The idea submitted to student activities and it was approved. Baptist Campus Ministry Vice President Luke Alford said people look for answers in lots of different things. I think it's really good to have the answers right in front of them. And that's the world that we live in for Tuesday, the 18th of March. I'm Sarah Harnish, and this is the 5 o'clock report on Family Life.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.